Now, the National Assembly has passed the amendments to the National Holiday Act to move Nigeria's Democracy Day from May 29th to June the 12th.
Well, the Senate at the plenary on Thursday passed the amendment in concurrence with the House of Representatives, which approved the new date earlier in December 2018. The passage followed the adoption of a report by the Majority Leader, Senator Ahmad Lawan, for the Senate to concur with the House. The legislation is now a bill for transmission to President Muhammadu Buhari for assent. Buhari had in June 2018 declared that Democracy Day would henceforth hold on June 12th of every year. In honor of the late MKO Abiola, the acclaimed winner of the June 12, 1993 presidential election. He had earlier conferred the highest national award of Grand Commander of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on Chief Abiola, of course. And joining us in the studio now to discuss this are one of the son children of the late Abiola, Abdulmumuni Abiola, and Ayodele Adewale, a former local government chairman in Lagos. Gentlemen, glad to have you join us.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
A milestone, you would say. How did you, it's been touted before, but now it's a law, particularly you, first of all. How did you feel when you heard that June 12th would now, it's now a reality?
First of all, thank you for having me. June 12th was always a reality to me. So, yeah, I just thought, okay, finally the world has caught up to what I already knew was true. So, yeah, it was a welcome development.
Good. All right, Ayodele, you've been a progressive, maybe I should say almost all your life, so how did you respond to the fact that now, the government has said low-key, May 29 will be low-key, but the real ceremony will come up on June 12th, and now both houses have passed it into law, so it stands. What's your response, your reaction?
Well, for me, it came as a surprise because a day before then...
Really?
A day before then, the June 12 coalition, where I was pioneering secretary under Dr. Becker and some Kuti before he passed on, and the NADECO, led by Admiral Busukano, we had a meeting and we're planning towards the date. And we were reflecting on what happened and some policy papers that made them join Chief MKO Abiola on his campaign, and that their intention was to rewrite the wrongs of Nigeria and put Nigeria on a better stead, particularly its economy and global view and all of that. Then the following day, I just saw it on social media, so I had to call them. What we're discussing yesterday to do is happening now, because we also talked about June 12 being the Democracy Day, not May 29th. And we're not just looking at celebrating the date, but of course the date being an opportunity provided where everybody will come together to reflect and of course give various submissions we passed to government on how to govern the country, all right? We were looking at the Nigerian Constitution. If you remember that late Chief Enahoro chaired the PRONACO, where I was mobilization officer. So we're looking at the PRONACO document and how to, continue the thing. And a lot of people are expressing pains and all, but again with gratification to the current administration on how they've been able to fight headlong corruption and try to put the economy of the country back on track. And we also saw that the government will need a lot of help, particularly in galvanizing the view of people towards doing what is right. So for us, it's a date that provides the opportunity for many generations to come, because as we continue to journey on in this mundane, at times things will continue to change, shaping up and all of that. But the ability to confront it with workable solution really matter more.
Now, Abdul, if you don't mind if I can call you that, let me come back to you. Now, June 12 for me has been a significant date in Nigerian history all my life. I've kind of known about June 12 being a very significant date. And we know what the significance of that date means to the Nigerian populace. But what I wanted to ask is something quite opposite to what everybody has been saying so far. And I want to know if you think that the fact that the government have moved the official inauguration date for this year and now have decided that that will be Democracy Day, How do you truly feel about that? Do you feel like it takes away the significance of that date and what it means for Nigerians?
No. Actually, I do not at all. I actually think that the day is significant, and it actually was a pivotal moment in our history, which was like saying no to military rule and actually deciding for ourselves what we wanted. No, so it was really a tragedy when it was all like derailed, because like millions of Nigerians came out and they spoke with one voice. You know, that if you remember back then, it was a Muslim ticket.
Yes, regardless of religion.
And this was a way, and I think it was also a signal to Africa at the time that, look, Nigeria was ready to stand up. So when this whole thing went awry, you know, I was obviously distraught, and I was still a kid, but obviously kind of upset. But like I said, I don't think, you know, democracy is fluid. So it keeps moving from one shape to the other. So I think that, you know, sometimes you take the good with the bad. So this experience that we've had has also taught us a lesson as well. You know, so for me, I'm looking at this as a way of also like another opportunity for the country to, you know, to just like actually just be honest with each other and address the issues for what they are. And we all want to survive. We all need a country that is sustainable. And let's see how we can accomplish that together as a unit, and not as three different regions. And I think that's what my dad was trying to get across.
You said it's taught you a lesson. Before I come to you, Adewale, you said it's taught you a lesson. What lessons particularly, or taught the nation a lesson? But what lessons?
First of all, I've always been a believer of the decisions I make today, I probably won't know the consequences of the decisions today. It takes a while before it dawns on you and go, oh, if I didn't make this decision, I wouldn't be here right now. So sometimes, you know, reflecting is very important. Every year I always do this, you know, New Year's resolution thing, and you try to improve yourself, and whatever it is, you say, okay, I'm going to do this better, I'm going to do this better. And I think having this day will be also, is just a reminder, like, okay, you know what, guys, yeah, we're in a democracy, but is it working for everybody? Or if it's not, how can we make it work? So it could be a day where people, it's not for celebration, but more for reflection on where we are, where we want to be, and if we're actually going in the right direction. And I think that's what we should all look for. And you know, in the United States, you had days that like are very like, you know, like impactful, like Martin Luther King Day. I remember when I was in school in the United States, it was like, wow, everybody was like, oh, Martin Luther King, and people were talking about the issues, and it didn't happen to do it. So I'm sure my dad is not really trying to have like a big party on the day, though. He just wanted to be like, he knew that if things were not done a certain way, we're 200 million right now. Back then, we were probably like, well, let's say like 150 or 120. But I'm just saying that the issues that we had back then are still relevant now, and how do we start addressing it before it just becomes too late?
Yeah.
All right, Ayodele, he paid what you would call, or what in certain quarters will be called, the ultimate supreme sacrifice. Looking back then, he talked about Muslim ticket. It was said that was the freest election Nigeria has ever had. Looking back, and then fast forward to today, how has what happened then affected our polity? Has it changed it? Have we learned our lessons in terms of the politicians, the voting patterns, and all?
Well, trying to answer the question whether we've learned our lessons or what have passed, if you look at June 12th election, that was the first election I ever had the opportunity to cast my vote. And that election was an open election where people queue. A4. People queued. We never had issues where people were breaking their heads or shooting guns, or some people overpowering the police. We had to get the army to come in and stabilize the situation. Everybody was calm. But recent day elections, you have to deploy all the strength of the country in order to create a peaceful environment. In some cases, it is almost nearly impossible. You have to do rerun and rerun and rerun. That wasn't the issue during June 12th. Nigerians were very tolerant. So we need to look at how did the Ofrinwosu, whatever you call them, committee or whatever you call it, succeed in that light. And I think the only way that election succeeded because of what was that Abiola was somebody that cut across all divide. Everybody was looking forward to seeing him become the president of the country. People were very tolerable. He even defeated Bashir Tofa in his own ward, in his own polling unit, without any fight. There was no money inducement. People were resolved that we wanted MK Abiola. He was a great philanthropist. He was very generous. He was also very religious, very, very religious. But he did not play the trump card of religion at all. His religion was to himself and those who were around him, but he did not put it forward in order to play politics or what have you. And every Nigerian wanted the best for themselves then. We wanted light, we wanted opportunity, freedom, and what have you, free education. In fact, history has it that immediately people got to know that Abiola was winning, the cost of food commodities were going down. We're going down. Shiploads of rice was coming into Nigeria. That's the fact that we wanted to grow our own rice. Abiola in the international community, of course, had so many friends that were ready to work for Nigeria. Just as this administration, when it came in, a lot of investors were bringing billions of investment into Nigeria. People were working all the way from Abuja, trekked down to Lagos. We had people trekking from Lagos down to Kaduna, and all of that. Those are the spirit of June 12. It's about passion, it's about wanting the best for Nigeria.
And it's interesting that you touch on that because I wanted to go deeper into that. I mean, we've just had the elections, the general elections that took place in February, and we now have a new administration. Do you think the political class at the moment, based on the general observation that you had of the election, do you think that they've vindicated or kind of justified that supreme sacrifice that you mentioned there of the late Chief Abiola?
Well, the forefront of the political class in Nigeria now, I would believe, is the president. And I believe the president of Nigeria is learning a lot from the June 12 spirit and the efficacy of June 12. That is why he and his administration and his political party, the APC, you understand, national leader Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I mean, are vehement that, one, we should honor the winners of that election. They went forward to doing that. And of course, giving him the highest medal in the country. That medal is only given to the president. That's an affirmation that Abiola won the election and became the president of Nigeria, regardless of the fact that anybody proclaimed him or not. Now, secondly, they're going forward again to declare that day where all Nigerians came out, regardless of nationalities, religion, tribe, or what have you, affirming that that was the freest and fairest day of election in Nigeria, so we can learn from it. So the ruling class right now is learning from that. Now, they are moving forward again to learn from those programs that Abiola initially and the SDP and, of course, the eggheads in Nigeria wanted to implement.
Are they really learning from it?
Yeah, because the issues you brought up,
politics is going. Are they really? I mean, look at the elections. Look at what happened in Lagos State, in some parts of Lagos State, where during the election, some people were disenfranchised. You know, in some areas they couldn't vote. The army conundrum in Rivers State, it was like a war front. You know, do you think that the politicians are really learning from it?
While I was talking, I did not generalize. I only picked one, and that's why I picked the president that is learning from it. That does not mean that they have all learned from it. There have been a lacuna between 1993 and 2018 when that election took place. I mean, 2019, when the last election took place, there's a big gap. And a lot of things have happened. And if we're learning, if we're going to go the whole hub of learning, one out of them is already learning and has learned. And from his campaign, he said that it will not be money-driven. And the president was not seen throwing money all around, as President Buhari. He believed in his credibility and, of course, his programs. And he said, if you believe in me, walk on. And that is why you saw him when the governors were having their own elections.
Is he just talking the talk, or are the people around him walking the walk with him?
Somebody must talk the talk. And he's walking what he has talked about.
But is he causing the people?
I've only singled him out. Like I said, I've not generalized. Now, somebody will start a revolution. Abiola started one. And when Abiola picked up the gauntlet to run, a lot of the left, the progressive, initially were not supporting him. He had to go into meetings with them. For instance, in NADECO, when he went into meeting with NADECO, they brought their own terms of reference for working together, and he agreed, and he took their programs and married to his own program, and they supported him. Even when he was in incarceration, NADECO, JACON, CD, CDHR, the student movement, they all fell out to defend the mandate, you understand, piloting it for the Nigerian people. Even when he was killed, they did not abandon the mandate. They continued. The mandate is not just Abiola being president. The mandate is to implement the programs that the SDP has promised Nigeria, you understand, through Chief MKO Abiola, and that is what's still being pursued.
Abdul, let me come back to you. You've just been a bit quiet. So I wanted to ask you a very significant question, because when we were speaking earlier, you said that, between June the 12th, the significant date, and now we need to kind of analyse some of the progresses that we've made and where we should be. And I know, Mr. Adewale, you also brought up the fact that during then, there was the light issue, the free education, some of issues which are still, problematic till today. Now, I ask everyone this question that comes on this show. Now, do you think democracy works in a country like Nigeria? And if it does, how much progress have we made? Because a lot of the times the argument is our democracy is in infancy, but when will we develop to the adolescent level and obviously a more mature democracy?
I understand exactly the question. First of all, you see, democracy is a series of different events. And then you put all that together and it makes a big story and how your country's created. I was in America, like I said, I grew up in America after my mom was killed in '96. And, I just got engulfed in the whole American dream, and it was just, like, captivating. I actually wanted to be American. And I was like, yo, call me Tyrone. And it was so, what I'm just trying to say is, America is about 200 years old plus. America, let's say when they were 20 years old, probably, like, I think it was the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
And if you had a problem with somebody, you call them outside and you just shoot them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure anybody back then would probably have been like, well, is this democracy really working for us, huh? So I think what we need to do is we take it step by step. Like, no good democracy is not going to be without its own faults. But you see, you stay the course.
Yeah.
You see, because bottom line is, democracy is the surest way of getting the majority to get their way, but the minority to have their say. So it's basically simple. All we're just giving you is the opportunity to speak your mind and have assurances that when you say what you feel, nobody's going to castigate you or exclude you. So if I do believe in democracy, because I know that human beings are not cattle. You can't just herd them into the direction you want them to go. You give them the opportunity to make that choice. What we need to first of all do is tackle education. I don't think that's just a no-brainer. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to know what is good for them if they don't even know that there's even something what good means.
Know what is good, know what is evil. You have to know.
It's not even basic to know what is good or what is bad. It's that you learn from your mom. But just basically what good means. Like, there's a definition that is good. You have to understand. It's like telling me to give you 2 times 2, and I've never been to a math class before. I think we should educate our people. Keep educating them. The more you invest in education, the better it's going to be, because then you have people who are thinking outside the box. Yeah. So you're looking at the problem just to find a solution, not because...
People who are no longer thinking about just their pockets or to make a living or to live, but people who are driven by vision. By how can I help better my nation? Let me ask you this question. You were young. We had somebody here on a morning show last week, and I was listening to him, a young man. He spoke quite well. The not too young to run bill is now law. Some people are thinking that, okay, maybe if we bring young people on board, maybe that would change things, maybe for the good, if you like, depending on which side of the divide you're coming from. In America today, Trump is 70 is going past 70. Joe Biden is back contesting. You have Sanders there. He's old too. And what do you think about that bill? And how do you think, or do you think that young or old, that it could make a difference in the paradigm, the way people think and way to go?
I understand. My dad used to say something, and he used to say it a lot. And he says the problems that he will create will be solved by his sons. And he didn't say that because he thought, his sons were going to be smarter than him. He knew his sons would grow up in a different environment entirely. Like, I grew up when we had military regime, so that's going to be part of my influence. But my son is growing up through a democracy. He never knew anything about military. So his way he's going to solve a problem is going to be different from the way I will solve a problem. Probably my idea will probably be, let's take them down. But my son will probably be a little bit more diplomatic because of the times he grew up. So I definitely believe that, yes. When you use, please, let's be very careful when you want to associate different countries and, just oppose them to Nigeria. Like I said, 200 years and 20 years. America is already a fledgling. It's a machine that is already well-oiled and is
well-oiled and is moving.
The president is just mostly a figurehead. Most of the times, they already know the country's policies. They already know where they're going. The president is just there, just like a staple. In Nigeria, what I'm saying indirectly is like, yes, maybe if my dad was president now, it would probably be funny because he probably doesn't understand Twitter, he doesn't understand the internet, he doesn't understand the modern world per se. Not necessarily saying that they don't have enough experience to give back. So I'm not saying we should put them in old children's homes. I'm saying that we should tap into that influence they have, but at the same time, use our own knowledge and our own experiences to like guide the country forward. Because it's like trying to, like a country where you're still thinking about when everybody's going towards clean energy. So I think what we need is new thinking. And you just said it. You said a paradigm shift.
But do you think that the youths are really thinking that? I have a challenge there too. When I discuss with some of the young ones, or when I see what they get busy with, that's my challenge too.
I'm a firm believer in to whom much is given, much is expected. So if you don't believe in them, they're not going to do anything for you. You have kids, I'm sure, and you give them the best, and I'm sure they probably impress you sometimes. And then some things you find out about them that if you don't even just like it's like having my kid and saying, oh, I'm just going to wait and see if he can do 1 + 1 before I send him to school. No, I'm going to invest in him first and then see what happens after. And I'll still love him regardless of what happens. But
do you have any plans to go into politics in Nigeria?
I don't think I have a choice.
Exactly.
He doesn't have a choice.
Great. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's been interesting. Maybe one last word. Just briefly.
Well, I would just say that we give the youth a chance. It's good that the bill was passed. I remember when I first of all mooted the idea in 2005. I was on a dining table with Chief Enaoro, Professor Jayesola Akonde, Adet Uno, many of our icons. I was the least, the youngest amongst them. And I said, why is it that an 18-year-old cannot contest for president? And they laughed and laughed and said, you've come again. I said, no. In your time, I mean...
You were that young.
You were that young when you governed. Then Enaoro was not looking at me. And I started, then Baba Mojola. I said, Enaoro asked about Mojola. At what age did you enlist into the army and became a paratrooper in Burma? He said he was 16. He said, okay. He now said, what is the greatest price for you to pay for your country? Somebody said, you lay down your life. And if you do that, what's that process called? He said, you become a hero. I said, fine. If you can lay down your life, why can't you serve your country at a younger age? So I won that debate. Then we went to the plenary. Then I used my organization then, Center for the Defense of Democracy, to push the paper. So they allowed me at the plenary, to present my paper. And everybody was just looking at me, very young. And it was accepted. So in the Prodapo draft constitution, it is there that 18 years be the political benchmark to contest into any office in Nigeria. So many years after, when the Not Young to Run started the thing, I was just looking at it. I said, okay, that's fine. But I think he passed because a segment of the ruling class in the National Assembly wanted to use them to make a point. They need to be conscious of that fact. Use them to make a point. Oh, the point has been made. We did it. But afterward, what happened?
What happens? Okay, we'll leave it there. We don't have all the time again. This could have gone on and become because there's the issue of, do they have the war chest to get on board and run? That's I'm talking about the money.
It's not about the money.
It's all about the
social
money.
network.
All right. Thank you so much, Abdulmumuni and Ayodele.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.